Without further ado, I would like to present to you the OEM Partnership Journey. This webinar is hosted by Millar Inc. and presented by myself, Valor Thomas. I am the OEM Business Development Manager for Millar. Over the course of this discussion, I plan to share with you some general information regarding what exactly is an OEM and what type of impact an OEM partnership can have on your business. We will then cover why companies should consider OEMs in general and why companies should also consider Millar as OEM partner. Following this, we'll get into some best practices for establishing a successful OEM partnership. Then we will review the Millar OEM Partnership Journey and Millar's core competencies. And finally, we'll conclude with the Q&A session. So what is an OEM? In the past, the term OEM has been used in many different ways. Originally, it was used to refer to the company that built a given product, which was then sold to other companies to brand and resell over time. However, the term has become a label to describe a variety of companies and relationships among companies. For the purpose of today's discussion, the definition that we will focus on is a firm that manufactures equipment or components that are used in another company's end product. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Some common examples of OEM partnerships that you most likely experience every day are a software company like Microsoft or Android that produce operating systems for computers or mobile devices, or a tire manufacturer like Firestone, who manufactures tires that are sold on new vehicles, or even a zipper manufacturer whose products are bought throughout the fashion industry. These are all examples of OEM partnerships and OEM relationships that sometimes go unnoticed that we experience on a day-to-day basis. So why OEM? Now that we are aligned on the what an OEM is, it's important to understand the why. An OEM partnership has the ability to impact your business in three key areas. Number one, risk exposure. Number two, cost and capital. And lastly, an OEM has the ability to greatly impact your time. From a risk perspective, an OEM partnership has the ability to dramatically reduce your exposure to risk. This reduction in risk is a product of your ability to leverage the expertise and experiences of your potential OEM partner as opposed to developing new technologies alone. And in the event that a joint technology development project is required, the risk associated with such development can kind of be spread out amongst all the parties involved, as opposed to you taking on all of that risk yourself. The second area of impact from an OEM partnership is a reduction in cost. An OEM relies on economies of scale to drive down costs. The end result is an OEM manufacturer has the ability to offer larger volume discounts. In addition to that, an OEM partnership allows you to purchase components or products at a price far less than what it would cost your company to manufacture on its own. This is especially true when you consider the cost associated with owning and operating facilities and factories. You have the overhead, you have the human capital, and things of that nature. In many instances, and in most cases, it just makes more sense from a cost perspective to go with the OEM as opposed to going at it alone. The third area of impact is time. An OEM partnership allows you to quickly adapt to ever-changing market trends without the need to undertake lengthy and expensive technology development efforts. By leveraging established OEM technology platforms, you can get your product to market faster and more quickly affect patient outcomes. This is really important if you're in the medical device field, because the end result, your end goal is always to get your product to market quickly and have a positive effect on a medical treatment. Lastly, Allowing an OEM to focus on their core competencies gives you the ability to devote your time and resources to further refining your own core competencies. So it frees up your time to do what you do best, as opposed to you spending the time to learning a new skill and developing an additional core competency. So let's take a second and talk about why Millar. Now that we have an understanding of why you should consider an OEM partnership, let's get a little bit more specific and talk about why you should consider Millar OEM Solutions. Millar OEM Solutions collaborates with companies worldwide to break down barriers to innovation. We work to improve manufacturing process and help our clients reach patients faster. Millar was founded in 1969. That gives us nearly 50 years of precision medical device manufacturing expertise. We are also ISO 13485 certified. For those of you who may not be familiar with the ISO 13485 standard, it is a comprehensive quality management system that is designed specifically for the manufacturing of medical devices. This standard is issued by the International Organization for Standardization. We have a 4,500 square foot ISO Class 7 clean room in our current facility. And in our new facility, we plan on nearly doubling the size of our clean room to over 8,000 square feet. We have established university and research partnerships around the world and a network of key opinion leaders. So every step of the way, we have the ability to test and validate projects at the beginning, in the middle, and towards the end to make sure that we are consistently on the right path. Continuing our OEM partnership discussion, let's review some best practices for establishing a successful OEM partnership. Number one, and this is usually the first step when you start going down this road, is don't forget the NDA. The NDA is a contract in which parties agree not to disclose information that is considered confidential. These are commonly entered into when two parties or more are considering doing business together and need to disclose proprietary information to one another in order to evaluate the potential business relationship and opportunity. These NDAs can be either mutual or unilateral, which means essentially a mutual NDA is covering all parties' confidential information, and a unilateral NDA is more one-sided. So one company's confidential information will be protected under a unilateral NDA. The NDA should clearly and narrowly define the purpose for the NDA. It should state that the confidential information can only be used for the stated purpose. So if you're entering a NDA for a specific reason, the information that's shared cannot be used for any reason outside of that specific purpose. Understanding what information is considered confidential should not be assumed. Clearly define what information is confidential within the contract. The terms, so the terms are very important. The terms of the agreement or the lifetime of the NDA should be defined within the document as well. A typical NDA lifetime or term is typically around 1 year. In addition to the lifetime of the agreement, the NDA should also set forth a period of time after termination of the NDA during which all parties agree to maintain the confidence of confidential information. This term is typically between 3 and 7 years. So that it means basically after the NDA has expired, you're still agreeing to maintain confidentiality. The NDA should explicitly state that it is not granting any license or right to the confidential information. And it should state that the parties have no obligation to enter into any future arrangements. That can be very important as well. In the event that there's a breach of contract, the NDA should allow for the affected party to be able to seek equitable relief by either injunction or some other form of payment. The next step is selecting the right partner. Selecting the right partner is paramount. When considering a OEM partner, make sure that their core competencies and their abilities are aligned with your company's goals and objectives. It's important for you to review the prospective partners' quality management systems. Do they have a reputation of quality? You don't want to get into a business with a potential partner who doesn't focus on producing a quality product. In any partnership, communication is key. How well does your prospective OEM partner communicate? When you have a question or a concern, are they responsive and reactive, or is it hard to get someone on the phone and they're slow to respond? These things are very important to a successful OEM partnership. So it's important to review these sort of characteristics up front. Making sure you select the right partner on the front end will save you a great deal of time, effort, and capital on the back end. The next best practice is visit the facility. If possible, it's always a good idea to visit the OEM's facilities when deciding which OEM partner is the best fit for a long-term relationship. While visiting the facility, have a conversation with the QA manager. You want to fully get to understand the quality management systems in place. You want to be able to confidently proceed with this OEM if it gets to that point, and knowing that, again, quality is a high priority of this OEM. Also, while you're in the facility, be sure to observe the overall cleanliness of the facility as well as the attitudes of the workers. Happy workers build better products. That's just good sense. The next best practice is ask the right questions. In order for you to make a good decision, you must have the right information. And in order for you to obtain the right information, you must ask the right questions. Some of the most important questions are, what type of testing is being done? In-house versus third-party labs. What type of testing methods and equipment are being used? How do you qualify incoming raw materials? Also, what type of lead times do they have? You want to make sure that there's alignment with their schedule and your schedule. By asking the right questions, you ensure that you can make the best decision possible for the future of your company. When assessing an OEM partner, it's important to consider your target market. For example, do you plan on selling your product in Europe? If this is the case, does your potential OEM have the abilities to meet the manufacturing metrics required to obtain an EU approval? The same can be said for the United States or any other region in the world where you plan on selling your products. Some of the most important international standards are issued by the International Organization for Standardization, or ISO, which is the international agency composed of the national standard bodies of more than 160 countries. The ISO 9001 standard is one of the most widely recognized international standards. This particular standard was published in 1987, and the current version of ISO 9001 was released in September of 2015. So make sure when you're touring your facilities and when you're considering OEM partners that you look at what type of certifications they carry, what type of standards they adhere to. Again, the ISO 9001 is a great starting place for you to consider when looking at these sort of things. Ensure manufacturing alignment. Before establishing an OEM partnership, it's important to assess your prospective manufacturing alliance in accordance with your own goals and objectives. Again, review the lead times of your prospective OEM partners. Do these lead times meet your minimum requirements? Do these lead times positively impact your business or negatively impact your business? This is something that you need to review on the front end before going into a OEM partnership. How many units is the manufacturer able to handle? Do they have the capacity to add on your business? these are also very important things. A lot of partners may promise you the world, but it's good to actually review the numbers and make sure everything makes sense and is aligned. Understand where your product will fit in with the manufacturer. Does your product require its own line? Does this particular manufacturer have the bandwidth to create that line specifically for you and your product? Again, these things are very important and will have a major impact to the way that you do business. Crafting the contract. Once you've made a decision and you're ready to move forward, crafting the contract becomes very important. Make sure the contract clearly declares the rights and responsibilities of all parties involved. You want to make sure you're on the same page. You don't want any surprises down the road. Much like the NDA, make sure the indemnification clauses are included to ensure that the affected parties are able to seek equitable relief by way of injunction or otherwise. So this is in the event that there's some sort of breach of contract and there are losses involved. You have the ability to regain what was lost. Make sure that there's a termination and expiration clauses. Make sure these clauses are clearly defined. You don't want any sort of ambiguity present when you're going through a termination of a contract or expiration. You want everything to be clearly defined. Include a location and forum for settling differences. The relationship breaks down and the parties can't work out their differences. The location and these differences could be very important. Jurisdiction do we handle this dispute? Do mediation or split, for coffee? Sort of thing important. And we'll prepare for everything. It's important for this to be included in the contract. And lastly, when it comes to best practices, it's important that you proceed with caution. A lot of these things have the ability to have a major impact on your business, and you don't want to enter into it on the spur of the moment. You want to make sure you've done your homework, you've done your due diligence, and you're proceeding in the best manner possible for your company. So always be cautious. Time is a major factor that needs to be reviewed. Review the lead times. Again, make sure the project timelines are clearly defined and are reasonable. From an intellectual property perspective, if an OEM tries to persuade you to retain its services by sharing other clients' trade secrets, assume at some point, somewhere down the road, it will do the same thing with your IP. So protect your IP. Be cautious of these sort of things. Your IP is your secret sauce. It's your key to your business, and you want to make sure you protect it at all costs. Carefully review the OEM's cost and pricing proposals. Only proceed if the numbers make sense. Numbers don't lie. If it's coming out to be more expensive for you to proceed with that particular OEM partner than it would be for you to do the manufacturing and things on your own, then it doesn't make sense for you to enter into that relationship. And lastly, risk exposure. Review your risk profiles and make sure that a partnership with this particular OEM is truly the best strategy for your company. Make sure that it is essentially decreasing your risk and not increasing your risk, because that doesn't really make sense for you to enter into a partnership where you're actually increasing your risk exposure. So now we'll continue on with the look at Millar's OEM partnership journey. As previously mentioned, Millar leverages nearly 50 years of manufacturing and research expertise. We add value to every step of the production process. Millar has an optimized process for integrating our technology into life sciences and clinical product applications. We work with companies at various stages of product development, and we have the ability to leverage our manufacturing protocols, our capabilities, our core competencies when needed for greater efficiencies. Our tested process is guaranteed to yield improved results and alleviate some of the stresses that are involved with some of these medical device development projects, which typically results in reduced cost and rapid time to market. So let's look at the Millar the Millar OEM journey. Stage 1, opportunity assessment. So in this particular stage, Millar has the ability to assist our clients in analyzing markets, determining feasibility, and we start to begin to develop our key opinion leader outreach to lay the groundwork for innovation. So this is really just the beginning stage to in the entire device production process. So looking at markets, analyzing feasibility, that sort of thing, that's all accomplished in stage 1 of the OEM journey, partnership journey. Stage 2, proof of concept. Millar has the ability to perform a full spectrum of proof of concept, including prototyping, animal trial support, and expert validation. Again, at every stage, we bring in the experts, so the key opinion leaders. We want to make sure that we're heading in the right direction and we are doing things that are a reflection of market trends and market needs. Stage 3, design control. We have the ability to assist you with your design control for testing, validation, and submission for regulatory review. So again, we've been in business for over 50 years, and that is specifically, not over 50 years, but close to 50 years, and that's specifically for medical devices. So you have the ability to leverage our experience in that regard. So we know what is required for submission and validation and regulatory type things, and we offer that support to our clients as well. Stage 4, clinical trials. We help to facilitate first-in-man studies and collaborate with the leading universities and research programs to collect clinical data. This is within our core competency and yet another service that we can add value to your device design process. Stage 5, manufacturing development. Again, with our many years of experience in micro machining and precision manufacturing expertise, Millar has the knowledge to impact even small markets on a large scale. Our collaborative team can advise our partners on the best production and practices when necessary, and even lead the entire production effort if that is something that your company requires. We have that capability. Stage 6 is product management. Partnering with Millar has the ability to, you have the ability to leverage our expertise from ROI studies. So looking at the market, reviewing what type of return on your investments you can see. We have the ability to assist in business reviews and as well as account support for future product innovation. That's our stage 6 in our proven and tested OEM partnership journey. And finally, stage 7, licensing. We can really begin licensing at any stage of the process, but this is typically the last stage when we get to our MEMS and our technology. We have flexible terms and agreements, and we would be more than happy to work with you to develop some sort of licensing structure if that's something that you and your company were interested in. All right, so let's look at Millar's core competencies and our core technologies. Our OEM efforts are largely centered around a pair of core technologies. So we have our MEMS pressure sensor, or our microelectromechanical system, as well as our transcutaneous energy transfer, which is our wireless power platform. So let's take a deeper dive into our MEMS pressure sensors. We bring over 4 decades of innovation and expertise in the pressure sensor technology realm. Our patented pressure sensors are the core of all Millar MEMS technology. The Millar pressure catheters are known as the gold standard for accurate and reliable measurements. Our OEM offerings are comprised of 3 primary sensor configurations, which are pictured here. The first one, the MEMS sensor, is a tested sensor with soldered micro wires attached. The second configuration is referred to as the MEMS module. In this offering, we have encapsulated the MEMS sensor in silicone and housed it in an alloy sensor housing. And the micro wires are soldered and have a length of about 4 feet in this particular configuration. The MEMS cap, the third configuration, is essentially the MEMS module, but the 48 inches of wire there are protected by a catheter body. This is one of the most popular configurations when integrating into medical devices. It allows you to simply and easily place the sensor where you'd like it, and being able to manipulate the wires and catheter body is very simple in this design as well. Let's look at our transcutaneous energy transfer system. So again, our wireless power. Millar's technology has a plethora of patents in the portfolio. Some of the most important aspects of this particular technology is that we have the ability to transfer up to 15 watts across 10 millimeters of skin with an 80% efficiency rate. This is really what sets us apart from a lot of our competitors. This higher power range is an area that we feel comfortable in, and we have proven to have negligible heating and things of that nature. We also can run the system at far less power ratings as well. So we have a full spectrum of offerings in terms of wireless power and how we can assist you in powering your fully implantable devices. All right, and that concludes our review of the Millar Partnership Journey. At this time, I would like to open up the floor for any questions. And again, you can input your questions via text in the questions tab on your user interface. Looks like we have one question there. And the question is it more common when you initiate initial conversations with potential OEM partners that you put a unilateral or a mutual NDA in place? So it's Millar policy to do more so of the mutual NDA. We want to make sure not only we are protected, but we want to make sure that our potential clients are protected as well. So we prefer to go with the mutual NDA in most cases. And we do this upon initially starting conversations. So at the beginning of conversations, when we need to start talking specifics, we put the NDA in place. Okay, we have a question here. So I see a question here. When will your facility in Pearland be complete? So that is a interesting thing. One of the major attributes of Millar is that we're growing and developing, and we are in the beginning stages of our new facility in Pearland. So we've been in this facility that we're in for quite some time. So we're looking at building from the ground up a brand new facility just south of where we currently are. So that's really a big benefit for any new OEM partnerships that we establish. We have the ability to go ahead and build the bandwidth for that into our new facility when it comes to specific lines and things of that nature. Ground should be breaking on that particular facility in the next 6 months, and we plan to be in that facility in 2018. I see another question here is how low can the transmitted power go? So that's referring to um, our wireless power system, so our TET systems. So the maximum power is about 15 watts, but we can tune that power down. Um, you know, we have smaller telemetry systems that use our wireless power capabilities in the mouse model, and those systems require, you know, very little power. We have the ability to essentially tune the power rating down as small as it needs to go. So in that regard, you know, whatever your power requirements, our system is versatile enough to handle it. Just continue looking at the questions here. If you have any questions, like I said, you can submit them while we look at this. Also, we have some handouts available in the handout section. If you click the handout section right underneath the polling section, you can download those handouts at your leisure. It looks like that may be all of the questions we have for right now. If you'd like to continue the conversation offline, my contact information is there on screen, vthomas@millar.com, and my direct contact number is there as well. I'd love to hear from you guys if you have any questions and things of that nature. If we don't have any further questions, I'd like to thank you for participating in today's webinar, the OEM Partnership Journey. Like I said, if you have any additional questions, please contact me. Once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and we would appreciate if you would complete that survey to provide us with your feedback. You will also receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours. With the link to view the recording of today's webinar. So after this webinar, we will post it for your ability to review and go back and look at some of this content. So on behalf of Millar and Millar OEM Solutions, I thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day.